Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, the great podcast of all time, is brought to you by Prime Video, presenting The Better Sister, starring Jessica Biel and Elizabeth Banks. The limited series opens on Chloe, living a picturesque life, while her estranged sister, Nikki, can't keep up. Ha, Nikki. When Chloe's husband is murdered, the prime suspect sends shockwaves, reuniting the two sisters. The Better Sister will be streaming on Prime Video, and consider Amazon.com on May 29th. Watch it.
Hi, I'm Andrea Abbate, and I am now being forced to do an intro for the show called Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. Is that good enough? Can I go now?
No, do it again.
Hi, I'm Andrea Abbate, and I'm on Don't Be Alone. You really don't want to be alone with Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hey gang, welcome to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. I am your genial host, Jake Hogan, and I'm so glad you're here. I want to remind you to write to me at dbawjk@gmail.com with all your suggestions, your comments, and especially your viewer mail suggestions that we can ask our guests. I want to remind you to subscribe to the show. Subscribe on YouTube. Be a YouTube subscriber. Those are very special people in my heart, and I need about, I don't know, 70,000 more subscribers. Yeah, more 70,000. So that would be very helpful if you subscribe. You can send the show, links to the show, the ones that you like, to friends. That's fun. So please do that. We have a great show for you today. We just recorded it, and it was a surprise to me. I had a question that I was going to ask about my life, and I never got to it because our guest was so interesting and had such a varied experience in life that it was fascinating. Andrea Abbate is our guest. She's a comedian. She's a writer. She's worked on television shows. She's been a stand-up. She has a one-woman show coming out called Adventures of a Slutty Girl with an Eating Disorder, something like that. And if it's a fraction of her actual life and her story, then it's going to be very, very entertaining because she's had quite a varied life, and you're going to hear all about it as we go through the show. And when we close one door, another one opens, and it's another adventure. And what's remarkable about her is through all of her trauma and all of her pain and all of her excitement, she's remained somebody who seems to be remarkably optimistic and happy and forward-thinking and positive, and how wonderful. So I can't wait for you to get to know her, just like I got to know her. It's fantastic, and here she is, Andrea Abbate.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
How many kids do you have?
Should we talk about this on the air?
We're on the air.
Oh, we're on the air. I didn't know that. Okay, great. Well, I have 4 kids that lived.
Okay, that's good. All right, so let me just introduce you.
Yeah,
so Andrea Abbate, a writer, a comedian,
Yep.
a producer,
Yep.
And apparently a model because you are at a lot of photo shoots.
Yes,
Leaving here to go to a photo shoot.
Leaving here to go to a photo shoot.
And you were at a photo shoot when I contacted you earlier last week.
And I did a photo shoot yesterday.
Yes.
But that's very rare.
Okay.
That's just all coincidental.
This is the picture time. But we're talking about your kids. So you have 4 kids that lived.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
4 kids, 5 abortions. So I'm minus 1 kid, basically.
Right.
That's what I'm at.
And
mathematics.
Right. Net total, you're minus 1.
Net total minus 1.
Okay. So all right. So and the age ranges of the children are
40 to 21.
Okay. That's a big range.
That's a big range.
19 years, huge range.
I know.
So
I'm very
going
fertile. This is the thing. This is the problem.
No, but fertile's one thing. Making the life choice of just never stopping having kids is another.
No, I adopted my last 2 kids.
Okay.
My brother was incarcerated, and I end up, stepping in and.
All right. And was that, where was the brother's wife?
There was no wife. There was a girlfriend who had several of her kids taken away, and she was also incarcerated.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it sounds
I
like
come
a Hallmark movie.
Yes.
It's a very weird Hallmark movie. All right. Well, now I need to know what happened with your brother. What's the deal?
Well,
and is he out?
Well, he got out.
Okay.
He's since passed.
Okay.
He got out and died.
I'm sorry.
But he was so, I hated him growing up.
Okay.
Hated him. He's the type of guy that would wipe a booger on your back.
Right.
In the middle where you can't get it.
Sure.
When your friends are there.
Okay.
Did you have a brother like that?
I didn't. I had a sister, and she did not wipe any boogers on my back.
So you were the torturer.
No, she tortured me in other ways.
She did?
She
Okay.
once chased after me with a knife.
I chased after my brother with
Yeah.
a bat and got him.
All right.
But, and I'm not proud of that. But he also, one of his good moves is he would rip up a whole thing of toilet paper and toss it. Like I'd turn off the shower. He'd sneak in there. We had no locks on our doors. And then just toss it all in. So I'm now covered with toilet paper, like a
Right.
human piñata.
Right.
So he was asking for it in, in my book.
And that's what he went to jail for? The toilet paper thing?
Yes,
Okay.
finally he was. No, he went to jail several times. I never got a straight story. He'll be saying, I got arrested for turning left.
Right.
On a right hand, but it was in a stolen car. He doesn't mention that part. But
Sometimes
anyway, drugs.
it's best not to investigate too deeply.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So you don't know what he went to jail for, but he went to jail.
Drugs were involved.
Okay.
Theft was involved.
Right.
And then I got, then I stepped in on as a maternal figure, kind of like the white Bernie Mac. That's what I say. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm really happy that I did.
Of course.
I'm really happy that I did.
Yeah, that investment's worth it. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. And then when my brother came out, Jay,
Yeah.
which was, he went and he got arrested for, he got 6 years. But with good behavior, you can get out early, So
I don't know, but I'm thankfully don't know, but I believe you.
Yeah,
So
but-
6 years turned into 3?
6 years, because he did not have good behavior.
Oh, I see.
But anyway, when he got out, I thought, God, why do I have so much empathy for a kid, but not an adult?
Right.
So why don't I just raise him too? So I'll adopt him.
Right.
As well. So then he came to live with me for his for 10 years, and turned out to be his last 10 years. But and then we became best friends. That booger wiping brother became my very good friend.
What changed in him that allowed you two to become best friends?
What changed in him was living with me. We had terrible parents, and we could get into that later, but we didn't have, he never had a chance really. And I was the oldest, and still I'm the oldest of anybody I know. I'm still the oldest.
All right.
I've retained that title. But I just thought I'm going to just take responsibility for him. So I just did everything for him. And I guess he was maybe loved for the first time. He started taking classes and doing self-improvement. He got off all drugs and da-da-da. He was such a helper and a lovely guy.
Did he start work of some kind that he liked?
He helped around the
I
house.
see.
And there was a ton of work. I have 12 chickens. I have 4 dogs. My husband's got 250,000 bees in the backyard. He's my 4th husband. There's kids. I think I'm leaving something out. Oh, I have like 25
Well, first
fish.
of all, the time it takes to count 250,000 bees, just to count them.
Yes.
That's a big job.
That's huge,
Yeah.
huge. Just that survey, the demographics. That, what is it? Census taking.
Census taking of bees. And to really identify one bee from another, that takes work.
and
work.
name them all.
Yeah.
But they don't live very long. I think there's 17 days. My husband talks about bees incessantly. I never pay attention, but I don't think they live long.
So we digress. So your brother, you and your brother, and how many other siblings did you have?
There's 5 kids.
5 kids in Fresno?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you're raised in Fresno, which is a very sort of weird little town.
Yes.
I've been
Jeffrey
there.
Dahmer's mother moved there after he was arrested.
Because she would fit in?
I
Why?
don't know why. And apparently, and I don't know if it's true, but there's been a fact/rumor. I don't know that his brother moved also there and then changed his name and still lives there, but we don't know who it is.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, I would definitely change my name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it changed its name to Man Eater. So it's like, Billy Man Eater.
The Hall & Oates song.
Sure. Okay, so 5 brothers and sisters. You were the oldest, did you
Yeah.
say? Okay. And this brother that you adopted was where in the lineup?
Next one down.
Next one down. Okay.
Next one down.
And are you still close with the other siblings?
My sister just passed away this month.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so she, so I'm not. So she's gone. So now so is your sister alive?
No.
Yeah.
My sister passed as well.
It's kind of interesting when you're like, we're 5, we're 4,
Right.
we're 3.
Right.
Like, oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm down to 1.
You're down
it's
to
just
1.
Yeah. It's just me.
But it was only ever 2.
It was only 2.
So you haven't felt the contrition of
It was a big contrition that one time.
Yeah, that one time. And were you close with your sister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a bummer. It's
It's
a bummer. Not only is it a bummer when you lose your sibling because you love somebody and somebody, but it's very interesting. Your siblings, my sister is the only one that knew exactly what my childhood was like. Like I had a shared memory with what it was to grow up and where we went up and who we met and how our parents really were and what everything was. All that was shared only by one other person, and now she's gone.
Yes. And you're in charge of the vault.
I have the vault, and I can also just make shit up. So it's okay. Nobody's going to call me on it at all, which is fine.
Yeah. I left when I was 16.
Yeah.
So, and a half, and I came here and I got early acceptance to UCLA. So my brother was 14 and everybody else was like 2 all the way down. So I just tried to escape. I didn't really come to LA to go to college. I came to LA to go to college, to leave. Mm-hmm. So I achieved my goal the second I got here. But anyway, then it was fun being at UCLA. But so I didn't really, all those years with my brother, I didn't reconnect with him till 40 years old, 38, 40.
Okay.
That's when we then reconnected.
Right, because he was busy living his life.
A life of crime.
Right.
Yeah, and I was not involved. And he had 2 other kids, one who's, now in prison for manslaughter and blah, blah, blah. So my family was a good family to leave.
Right. Well, I mean, your family and my family are like mirror images of each other. Oh, no, not exactly mirror images. No. The opposite. Everybody's pretty boring.
Well, you know what? And I married 2 Jewish guys for that reason of like, try to get into a good family.
Right.
What is it like to just discuss where's dinner? What is it like? I'm on a group text. Right. I turned my phone off that Charlie, which is my nephew, good news, got manslaughter, only 10 years. That is a group text of yay.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh. So I've always been attracted to the boring, which doesn't sound boring. It sounds like a vacation.
Right. But then if you want to marry somebody and just talk about what's for dinner, when you marry a Jew, that's all you're talking about.
Yes.
Is what's for dinner. Just where to go for dinner, how was dinner, why dinner wasn't great.
And where will we eat tomorrow?
And where will we eat tomorrow? Let's start planning now.
You know, we had a lot of alcoholics in my family. So I remember writing to my mom a letter, of like, Mom, I'm in Chicago with my husband's parents. Guess what we're talking about? Food. We're talking about this and this and this. My family really didn't eat that much.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
They drank
the meal, forgot about the meal, and certainly food was not a topic. When you were awake, it was not. In fact, when I was young, one of my jobs early on was to make my mom's coffee and bring it to her, and it had to be brought to her right away with just a dot of cream and a lot of sugar. She would take like 3 sips of it and achieve her goal, which was to burn all of her taste buds in her mouth, like purposely burn her mouth so her little taste buds couldn't get her.
Okay.
And so she couldn't taste anything for the rest of the day. So she would not be attracted to food and not lose her willpower to not eat.
Okay.
And it was like the Ozempic of the 60s.
Sure.
So I grew up in that attitude of don't eat, don't look at bread. How many bites of rice are you having?
Mm-hmm. So you came to Los Angeles, UCLA, you went to UCLA, and then what was the road to becoming a writer and a comedian? What was that road?
A long, arduous road. I wanted to go to UCLA and study anything in the theater arts. And
so you knew coming to Los Angeles it wasn't just to escape home. It was mainly to escape home, but you were hoping for a career in the arts already.
Yes.
Okay.
And my parents said, no, you cannot do that. And since my senior goal was to leave and also not be in debt, I didn't. So, and I was a little on the young and foolish side, definitely in the foolish area. So I just had to do what they say. So then I became an economics major. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of went from there to being a druggie and kind of losing my way. And And later on, in fact, that's what this postcard I brought to show, Adventures of a Slutty Girl with an Eating Disorder, which is a very funny one-woman show is about that starts June 7th at 8 p.m.
Where can we see this one-woman show?
At a beautiful theater here, right here, the Broadwater Theater on Santa Monica, 6322 Santa Monica. Yes,
Sure.
right next to a really cool bar.
Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, the greatest podcast of all time, is brought to you by Prime Video, presenting The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Sauron has returned. Cast out by Galadriel, the Dark Lord must now rely on his own cunning to rebuild his strength and forge the legendary Rings of Power, threatening to bind all peoples of Middle-earth to his sinister will. Empire gives the series 5 stars and calls it fantasy at its absolute highest level. RogerEbert.com says it's a magnificent second season. The Rings of Power is Emmy eligible and available for TV Academy members at consideramazon.com. Watch it.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
But anyway, that was my, trajectory down. I made the mistake of thinking, you know what? When I leave home, all my problems will be gone because I'm leaving my problems behind there in Fresno.
Right.
But sadly,
well, you're carrying you with yourself and the history that you have and this genetic inclination to
crime and drugs,
substance and stuff. Yeah. So,
yes.
I mean, that you can't run away from that.
No, nor from the, internalized invalidation that you do all the time. And we had a lot of our family. My brother, as I say, my brother Hal got the worst of it, I think, because my dad abused him so much physically, but there was also incest that fell upon me. So, and still, I always say I would, I don't want to upset anybody that's a survivor of sexual, whatever they call it, assault, but I saw what happened to my brother, and I feel like I was the lucky one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, in that situation, it doesn't sound like anybody's the lucky one. That's not, yes, there's different kinds of bad.
There's different kinds of bad. And I feel like my bad was, Anyway, I kind of was maybe more resilient. I don't know, but I bounced out of my bad better
escaping the home is fantastic. That's a good start.
Yes, that is a good start.
But then you were looking for validation elsewhere and sort of still feeling your pain and still sort of trying to numb it with other stuff.
With lack of eating. That was my big thing, lack of eating.
Right.
So anyway, this is all the way to get to be a comic or writer.
Right.
I then pulled myself together, married one guy. That didn't work out so good. That was only a one-day marriage. I think I have almost Britney Spears type of marriage.
Okay, but that doesn't count, kind of.
I don't think it counts, but it was a marriage.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even a divorce. That's how quick that marriage was. The next day, and we didn't consummate it. Mm-hmm. The next day, after the marriage, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I was pregnant at the time, which is the only reason I didn't have sex.
Okay. With his baby?
No.
Okay. All right.
Someone else.
All
Who
right.
knew? Who knew?
Right.
Jay, who knew?
I didn't know.
I don't know.
I didn't know.
We've never done tests, but I had some runner-ups.
Sure. Okay.
Also probably very different than your life.
Sure.
Hence a slutty girl with an eating disorder.
Yeah, exactly.
Living up 20.
It's true. I have never almost gotten married because I was pregnant. I have not had that experience.
Right? To anybody. This guy was so nice and he kind of looked like a Beatle.
Right.
And I've always loved Paul McCartney. And, my husband's English and isn't dissimilar to Paul McCartney again. Mm-hmm. But, so I met him. He really liked me. He asked me to marry him. We got married like within a week. Don't do that, people.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Yeah.
So after the wedding, I think I was pretty good during the wedding. But
during the actual ceremony, you were okay. No panic attacks during the ceremony.
I mean, it was a fun adventure. It was my first wedding. I didn't realize it was my first, because you don't know until you have your second, third, and fourth. And maybe fifth, who knows? Life is long.
You don't know. You don't know.
One of your listeners.
My wife always introduces me as her first husband.
Oh, that's darling.
Yeah.
I introduce my husband as my current husband.
Right.
That's probably not that endearing. But anyway, so But when we went to the dinner after the wedding, you know, where I was like, oh no, this is a terrible mistake. This is awful.
What did he do at dinner?
It just dawned on me. I don't know this person.
Right.
I don't want to, I'm telling you, I was immature.
Right.
So I then talked to him all night about my record albums.
Okay.
I didn't want to go to a hotel or anything. Let's just go to my place because the hotel really sets up with something's going to happen.
Right.
And I didn't want anything to happen.
Right.
So I have to go get something at my house. So now that I'm at my house, I just want to show you these records.
Right. Was he a music person?
I don't know. I didn't know him. Jay, maybe.
All right.
He was a person that was listening, and I was just blabbing on about the Runaways and such until morning came.
Right.
And then in the morning, I said, I think we've made a mistake. I think I don't know you well enough. We shouldn't be married. Anyway, I got him to agree to let's just go to the guy who married us and talk to him.
Right.
And he said, I haven't sent the papers in.
Right.
Do you want me just to rip them up? And I'm like, yes, please, could you?
Right.
So what does that count? Does that count?
It counts. It was a ceremony. It counts, but it doesn't really count. When you have it annulled, or even if it was legally annulled after a day. I had a buddy who got married in Las Vegas, and then it was just sort of like it was a pain in the ass for him to get it annulled, but he did. It took way longer to get it annulled than it was to just decide, hey, let's get married on a lark.
Yeah. Well, I feel the things that kind of push it into not a marriage is the fact that we never consummated. We never had sex before, during, or after.
There are lots of marriages that don't get consummated. I'm telling
really?
you. Oh,
are
yeah,
you
that happens.
Me?
No, that happens.
Oh,
sure.
well.
Yes. It's the vows. So.
Those vows are, you know what my mom called a marriage? My mom's been married 7 times and she's since gone. But she would call a wedding a piece of paper and a cake.
Okay.
It's a vows schmows, right?
Okay, sure. 7 times. That's an optimist. That's somebody who really, that thinks, I believe in marriage, I just haven't hit the right one.
Yeah. She, anyway. She was a character. This one last guy that she was going to marry and she didn't, but she would call me late at night. You know, what I mean by late at night is 9. Never accept my mother's calls after 8. If you're not wanting to talk to someone who is really tanked, you just knew, don't pick up the phone. But one night I was watching NYPD Blue and I was so just involved in it that I accidentally just picked it up. And it was my mom. And she's going on in her drunken cadence about this guy she's met named Rudy. I can do my mom. Yeah. I met someone and he's just fantastic. His name's Rudy. Anyway, and she's going to marry him. But she has one concern. And I'm like, is that you just met him? No, honey. It's that he hasn't had kids.
He's going to want kids.
Basically, after like a half an hour, I want to know if you will have his child for him. And I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? And I didn't want to say, Mom, you're drunk, but I just said, why don't we talk about this when you've had more sleep? And she just, I'm not drunk. Tell her, Rudy, tell her. And now I find out that Rudy
is on the call.
Has been on the whole time. And I'm like, Rudy's been on the call. And she's like, well, he has a right. We're talking about his kids. He has a right to be involved. And I'm like, oh my God.
Right. That's the quickest no. Yeah, that's a pretty easy no. That's a pretty, I mean, not only are you missing blue bloods, like you've got to get back to the show.
Exactly.
But also, like, you have plenty of kids. You don't need to worry about it.
I'm like, who murdered that florist? Exactly. I'll never know now. But anyway, my mom got off the phone with me, very upset that I'm a greedy vulture and want more money when she dies. And that's the only reason you won't have Rudy's child. Then she decides she'll call my younger sister, Elise, who's prettier and better, more all around.
And I'm sure Elise did not agree as well.
No.
But that's good.
No.
Okay, so we're on the road to becoming an actor and a comedian. I'm going to bring you back.
You have a good attention span.
I just didn't want to stop the story. The stories are pretty good, so I don't want to stop the stories, but I'll always bring you back. So where along the path, you're getting married to all
I
these
got
people.
married once to that guy.
All right.
So now that leads me up to my next husband,
Right.
which I just say next because I usually don't count that first guy. But my next husband was I don't want to give anybody away, but anyway, my next husband. So when that went bad, so I have a child already, right? And now we have a child, my new husband and I. And that broke apart after 7 years. And when that was,
But that's way better than one day. So if you're
so
measuring
good.
one marriage against the other, you got to give yourself points for the 7 years.
I talk about my various husbands in my act, but I misnumber them, so you never know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
So now, since I'm being so kind of with a chronological order, I am going to stay mum on him, but very a wonderful guy.
Okay. I don't believe you. I don't believe he was a wonderful guy. I believe he was an unwonderful guy.
You know what? Through the years now, we have gotten a good relationship.
Okay, that's good.
And I'm very happy about that.
Talking about what really happened and saying this person has gotten better or life has gotten better or you guys have grown or whatever that's okay too. You're talking about things that you did in the past that maybe you wouldn't have repeated and that you're glad you got through. And maybe this guy is glad he got through some stuff.
Oh, yes.
Regardless of what it is.
He's definitely improved.
Okay. All right.
But the point is when I got divorced, I had the kids all the time. And then his attorney said, if you don't take the kids half the time, you're not going to get custody.
Right.
So when they were gone and I was living at the apartments on Barham, that they used to be something. Now they're the
Like
Ava.
the Oakwood apartments?
Oakwoods,
Sure.
furnished because I'd left the house.
Right.
Now I'm in a little 1-bedroom apartment with 2 kids.
Right.
Starting over. And when those kids are gone, you just like, whoa. What have I done?
Right.
Now I have nothing to, talk about lonely.
Right.
So I thought, what can I do with this loneliness? Where shall I go on these 2.5 to 3 nights a week? And I thought going to the movies for one, buying a ticket for one seemed really sad.
Right. That's even lonelier than staying home. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And dinner for one, table for one is also, and I didn't eat that much.
Right.
So I didn't want to spend, I didn't really have,
Where do anorexic go to dinner? Like, I'm trying to figure out, he's saved so much money. You could go to the nicest restaurants and still not spend much.
I would never take myself to dinner because I wouldn't eat a dinner.
Right.
I would eat sunflower seeds for dinner.
Okay.
So that's a staple.
Sure.
But where I did go was the Comedy Store.
Okay.
Because you blend in with the crowd and you could buy a ticket at that time. I don't know what it is now. But you bought a ticket at 8. You could be there till 2 in the morning.
Right.
You had to have 2 drinks. You could nurse those 2 drinks for a long time.
Right.
And I would go there almost nightly.
Oh, wow.
When I
Okay.
didn't have my kids. And then as I was there, after a week or 2, I realized seeing some of the same comics over, I would go to the original room. This is an act.
Right.
I did not know that before.
Okay.
I thought they're just,
Just
hilarious.
standing up and being funny, yeah.
Just spontaneously combusting.
Right.
And one night, a comic did not show. And the guy on stage, whose name was Jackie Diamond, I don't know what his real name was, even though we started dating later, but I dated so many people. Anyway, he was there. There was 7 people in the audience. I was one. There was a lesbian lady sitting next to me who was trying to buy me drinks. And I was saying, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. So he was introducing somebody. They weren't there. And the guy in the back just said to continue. He's like, oh, no, I have to keep going. And I said, you're good. You can do it or something like that. And he said, you think this is easy? And I was like, and he said, why don't you come up here and tell a joke? And this lady over here had put her hand it was on the inside of my chair, an inch away from my knee. So I was jumping on stage.
Sure. We're escaping a lesbian lifestyle to jump on stage for an even worse comedian's lifestyle. I don't know. Maybe you should have stayed in that chair. You don't know.
As you know, I have this molesting history. So anybody that makes forward motions like that, if I make a forward motion, fine, but nobody, don't touch me.
Yeah.
So I jumped up there and told my first joke, and that's how I got into comedy. And then what did I talk about? I'm concising now, so you can get to your story, which is I've been blabbing this whole time.
I don't have a story. I just have a question that you're going to keep on blabbing about. So don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's all good.
Okay. Well, I jumped up there. I told a joke that was just a joke that
Right.
And it got a laugh. And then I started dating that guy
Right.
for minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided to try stand up, and I went into what was so obvious about me is that I'm divorced with kids and my mom was married 7 times. And I went into that, and that turned my life around. And had I not been so sad and beside myself,
Right.
and also a person that now didn't do drugs or anything bad, I would not have reached the Comedy Store as a solution.
Right. So let me ask this question, which is still not my thing, but I want to know. So what gave you the strength then? It sounded like you had left a tough marriage, and then somehow gotten the strength to sort of stop taking, drugs or,
Which I had stopped years ago.
That seems hard. I don't want to say
and eating, again,
Right.
not being anorexic.
How'd you overcome those things even before you reached the stage of the Comedy Store?
Well, I know this will lead you off, but I got into Scientology when I was in my 20s and instantly started eating. So when I was approached on the street while I was waiting for my drug dealer, minding my own business, back in the day, that's
Right.
how long ago it was, you had to wait. I had to wait for my drug dealer on the street. That we did not have cell phones or pagers.
Right.
You made a plan.
Right. You
with
had to buy your
another-
drugs the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, the old-fashioned way. I'll meet you at the corner.
Right.
And while I was waiting at that corner, I got approached, bamboozled, whatever, into taking a test and then taking a class. And that class just basically turned me around.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, then it's not a bamboozle. Then it's just a...
But it was a bamboozle at the beginning because I did not want to go, but I did not want help. I was not looking for answers, but this guy who was cute, his name was Ken. I never saw him again.
Right.
It was my inability to communicate, my inability to say what I really thought that saved me. Because if I had that ability,
Right.
you want to do a free personality test, I'd be like, no, I don't give a shit about my personality. I want drugs. I would have said that, but
Right.
instead I was like, well, and now I find myself taking this test, and you should take this communication course. Oh, yes, I'll go there, just trying to
Right.
get out of it. It was $10.
That's not much.
You could write a check.
Right.
And back in those days, and you didn't even, I knew it was going to
No,
bounce.
they're famous. Scientology is a little famous for then starting you off a little bit, and then they want more as time goes on, and what you to get to the different levels.
Yeah. I've done all of them. I've done everything.
Okay.
Done
So, yeah.
everything.
All right.
I wrote a bad check, and I was like, I bet the test didn't
Right.
show you about that part of my personality.
Right.
But in the 80s, you didn't even get any bounce check charges.
Okay.
That was the good old days.
Oh man, you can't bank like that anymore.
No.
Yeah.
But so I then did that little class and continued on, and just resonated with me that I never thought about it. Like, you're in control of your hands. Like, my hands are not hitting me while I'm talking to you. They're just sitting here.
Right.
I'm in control of my legs. They're not running out of the room. I'm not just, hey, Jake, Duck, take me to the chair. So how interesting that to just buy it as normal, that you're not in control of your thoughts, that you end up thinking a lot of thoughts that you don't want to think.
Mm-hmm.
It appealed to me to be more in control, that, wow, could I put in any control on my thoughts? Could I think more better thoughts and then maybe not hate myself so much and others?
Right.
And others.
Right.
And maybe I might not be depressed. And so out came this sense of humor, out came this, and this. And still, that's probably why I went the 7 years. Still, I was super duper depressed when that marriage ended. It's not like it was a magic wand, and I never felt any sad things again. But that's what helped me transform out of my 89 pounds when I got in
Wow.
Scientology, and I'm 100 and I step on the scale every day. Do you step on the scale every day?
Oh God, no.
Oh,
Oh no, I'm afraid of what I'd see. That's not good.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
The question I have now is, you start to do stand-up that one time and you tell a joke that you already knew.
yeah.
The difference between telling a joke that you already knew and creating an act, writing your own jokes about your own life or about whatever, and doing that and being able to say that is a whole other thing. I just started doing stand-up again.
Okay.
I used to do it when I was very young. I started doing stand-up again, and it's a completely different thing to write material, hone the material, edit the material, say the material, try to memorize the material, and then make it conversational enough that it is then no longer seems like you're telling people jokes, but you're telling people a conversation.
Yes.
That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
How'd you get there?
Well, when I was younger, so since my dad was abusive, I guess, I'm putting this together while talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
All the negative things in my life have turned out to be very positive. If you don't, kill yourself before you find it.
Right.
But, my dad had a penchant for hitting and such. So one of the things that I got away with as a way to stay in my room was to do extra credit reports.
Mm-hmm.
So I was that was not frowned upon in my family. Oh, she's studying. Well, let her study. But, you can only study so long. You can only write so many extra credit reports.
Mm-hmm.
I was that girl that would come in with 3 extra credit reports every night because I was staying in my room. But I had a fish tank, Jay, that I loved. And this fish tank, I would steal money because we do, there's that criminal penchant. Steal money from my mom's purse, only 29 or 39 cents at a time. Right. Because that's the price of a fish. Sure. At the time. Mm-hmm. And I would go sneak out to the store through my window, go to the store, cross this field and down a street and back and get a fish. And I populated this fish tank. And then I would watch the fish tank like TV. Right. And I would consider myself a scientist. But when I look back through my fish diaries, I'm like, well, this fish is having an affair with this fish and blah, blah, blah. And I was always writing. And one of my fish who was biting the tails of other fish, I had to put him in solitary confinement. So I got a bowl, but I put it by the tank so he could see what he was missing. Right. And learn his lesson. Yes. And I gave him 10 days.
And did it work?
Well, he killed himself. So this is what is in the fish diary. I came home one day from school, Catholic school. God's watching us. Hey, God. And my fish was crispy on the floor and kind of in a, shag carpet. He had jumped out. And I came to the conclusion scientifically that he killed himself because he knew that he could never be back with them and that he wasn't fit for social. So I did that. That was my scientific conclusion. Okay. But anyway, I was always writing, besides the extra credit reports, I was writing all these things about my fish and their personal life and who was dating who, all that to say, I then wrote some plays about a rabbit who was running away from home. I was writing and all my extra credit, everything I did in my room had a pencil connected to it or a pen. So I was writing, whether it's copying, and when I say writing, I mean copying things from the Children's Encyclopedia. It's for my extra credit report or writing about my fish or writing a play about a rabbit. I was writing. So when I started going out with Jackie Diamond, I met a female comic who I liked a lot, and she did characters but didn't have strong punchlines. And I said, hey, maybe I could write some for you. So I loved writing. Right. And so I wrote punchlines for other comics and still do. And still do. So the writing came very easily.
Well,
and
that's
then
great.
Just having the guts to stand up and say something. Right. I just finally thought, well, what? I don't even know anybody here. So I can do this.
Sure.
But the writing came first.
So my original question was going to be, but we're almost at the end, but was going to be, how do I translate the difficulties of my life, the sort of big traumas, and translate that to comedy, which is something that you seem to have done very, very well.
Yeah.
But I'm putting that aside for a second.
Oh my God.
Because I don't think none of my traumas seem to stack up to the least amount of trauma you've ever had is still bigger than any trauma I've ever had.
Yes, I'm very lucky that way.
Yes.
I've had a lot of trauma.
So you had all that. Another question I have, because you've led such an interesting life and have had a lot of trauma, how are you on forgiveness?
100%.
Have you forgiven the husbands and the relatives and the parents? And you don't even have to forgive. Have you found a way to sort of, at least in your heart, place it? So this is where how I can make sense of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the first things, here we go back to Scientology, but he said is never accept an invitation to hate, but to try and love the person despite all the reasons. So you have to kind of I did first kind of try to apply that to myself. So I've done horrible stuff, and it was, they have a certain procedure for doing that, but it was in doing that really helped me. Nelson Mandela has that fantastic quote, which I will butcher because I don't have it memorized, and you should put it on the screen. But basically, after he was imprisoned for 33 years for nothing,
right,
for being an amazing person, and then talk about what hatred and upset you might have from that. Sure. And yet he said something like, if I walk around with this hatred and this bitterness, I will still be imprisoned.
Right.
And if I did not forgive my father for the incest and the various things that occurred, and forgive myself for making bad decisions and starving myself for 6 years and blah, 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 what chance have I of happiness? So forgiving 100%.
I don't know that I'm
embracing 100%.
I think it's fantastic that you can forgive. I don't know that I would necessarily need to forgive. I would want to understand. In other words, the things that when people have hurt me in the past, I kind of want to look at where they were coming from in their lives, not in that moment, but in their lives. What brought them to this moment?
Yes, exactly.
And then I can understand it. I don't even have to forgive it, but I just want to understand what brought them to that place.
I think mathematically that is part of the equation.
Yeah.
Understanding begets forgiveness for 100%.
Right. Yeah.
But my father, who had a lot of wonderful qualities, but had an alcohol problem, so then would black out.
Right.
And so I didn't even know what that was at the time, but that's what was going on. And, for the various things he did that were sadistic, he was also a extremely productive person who gave a great, paid for me to go to college,
right,
put food on our plates, blah, blah, blah. It was very patriotic at the time. It was, he was like, buy American, blah, blah, blah. This is the greatest country. He met his demise. My father was murdered I have a lot of trauma.
Okay. Your father was murdered?
Lived by the sword, died by the sword a little. Yeah. We didn't even he got to be 50.
It seems like you have plenty of material for your one-woman show. What's it called again?
The Adventures of a Slutty Girl with an Eating Disorder.
The Adventures of a Slutty Girl with an Eating Disorder. A disorder at the Broadwater Theater.
At the Broadwater Theater.
In Santa Monica.
And the first starts June 7th through June 27th. So I'm very excited about it. And you can, it'll be on my Instagram. Should I give my Instagram and stuff out?
Sure.
My Instagram, which is Andrea R. Abbate, which is spelled Abbate.
Right.
And on TikTok, Andrea Abbate, Abbate, Abbate 544.
We do one thing, and I'm going to do it before we finish, which is we take a listener mail.
Now it's time for listener mail.
This is sent in by Maynard, and he wrote, "What is your sacred place that is not a holy place? In other words, if you could choose the last thing you see in this world, what would it be?"
Wow. Well,
And I'm going to exclude family members.
Yeah, it's going to not be any,
Yeah,
it's not going
right.
to be a person. It's going to be a place.
Right.
And I would be in Paris or Switzerland because I like that end of death you can do at Switzerland, so you don't have to wait, you know, so it could be that. But if I could just be sitting on a park bench in Paris in the 7th district, I'd be so happy.
That's amazing.
I would be so happy.
And for me, the last thing I'd want to see, I guess, is the number of subscribers to my YouTube channel, Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. So if I had reached the number, like, I don't know, if you guys can help me.
What is the number? What's the magic number?
The magic number is like 50,000, some big number like that. And I think right now we're hovering in the 2,000s.
Okay.
So we need real help.
Okay.
But if I looked at that, I'm about to die, and I see that we're at 3,500, it's going to be a very sad death.
Oh.
That's going to be a very heartbreaking death. So so I need help. I need people to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. No, but the real answer is what would be the last thing I'd want to see? I don't know. I mean, I guess something that would allow me to feel good about going wherever next is. So maybe if again, you're asking about something that's here on Earth, not a vision of something.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe if there's a picture of all my ancestors or something that was something that connected me to the past in a deep way, so that I knew that I felt that there might have been a future.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
I love that.
Some
I love
shtetl
that.
in Ukraine
Shtetl
or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be it.
Yeah.
Or a dog. Dogs are cute. I'd see the
Dogs
last
are
thing I would
cute.
see a face of a dog.
And I'm not going to be on a park bench. I'm going to revise that. I'm going to be in my gorgeous apartment,
Right, in Paris.
on my bed, looking out at the architecture in Paris that I love. And maybe I will have my dog, but I think that's a little selfish because what's going to happen to the dog? I'll just be there.
Right. In the 9th district with that beautiful
7th
shopping.
district.
The 7th district. Okay, very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, very beautiful. Well, Andrea, thank you for being here. You're awesome.
Oh,
It was a
thank
great
you.
experience talking to you and getting to know you better.
Oh, thanks, Jay.
And this was fantastic. Thanks for being here and being able to swoop in at a moment's notice. This is beautiful. Well, good luck with your photographs.
Oh, thank you.
They're going to be great, I'm sure.
I'm sure they will.
And thank you for being here. And thank you for being here.
Yes.
Don't be alone. You spend time with people. You get to know people. It's very interesting. I got to tell you, it's a great part of my life, and I think it should be a big part of your life. So don't be alone. Write to me at dbawjk@gmail.com for all your concerns and comments and just to say hello. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah, listen to this guy.
Don't be alone.